This is Parashat Tazria, so the Sheva, Daber Hashem Moshe Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber Ben Israel, Lemor, speak to Ben Israel, saying, Isha ki Tazria, a woman, when she gives birth, she conceives, and gives birth to a male. The Tama Shiva Dami. She's contaminated for 7 days. As during the days of her separation, infirmity, titma, she shall be contaminated. So just like she's a nita and she's contaminated for 7 days, here also after the birth, she's contaminated for 7 days. On the 8th day, she shall be circumcised, the flesh of his foreskin. And on 8th day, we should do Brit Milah. 33 days, she should remain in the blood of purity, but in anything Kodesh sacred, Lotiga, she should not touch, and the Midah should not go, and Melody Tahara. She finishes the days of Tahara. Therefore, Torah is telling us over here in the birth. Now, what else is the parashut? That's the parashut talks about the kosher food that we have to eat, not kosher. What's not kosher but kosher? And here it's talking about birth. The Mefarshim say, whatever a pregnant lady eats, it has impact on the neshama of the child. If she eats something that it's not kosher, that would have impact on the child. There are a lot of stories in the Gemara that the lady was pregnant and she wanted to eat something not kosher. She refrained and not eat, and the child was Sunday, and she ate, and it had impact on the child. Obviously, if she's in sakana, she should eat. She should not refrain from eating, because it's an avera not to eat, which is sakana. But bichlal, therefore, eating, you are what you eat. Therefore, eating is very important. That's why the Gemara says, no, there's assurance that Hashem doesn't bring any takal somebody like for studying, for eating. Why eating more than any other things? Because eating makes the person. Now, Torah says, and if there's a zocha, she has another contamination by zocha. Why? It's very interesting. We are talking about the birth. Birth is life. We are giving life. Therefore, Torah should talk about purity, should talk about simcha. Now, all of a sudden, Torah talks about contamination. Why life has to do with contamination? The Zohar HaKadosh says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Zeh le'omat zeh bara Elokim Shlomo HaMelech says. This contrasts to that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. Tumah and Tahara are together. Whenever we have a concept of life, giving neshama, being kedusha, once the kedusha is being given, the vacuum of that is tumah. Therefore, the world goes together, tumah and tahara. That's why there's a complication in the world that we are living to understand that any time that we give kedusha, we bring some neshama, some life, there is tumah, which purity is life, tumah is death. Therefore, the vacuum of that living, the mother, the neshama, creates that the vacuum creates some type of tumah, contamination. Now, this contamination is 7 days for the husband. After 7 days, she goes to mikdash, she becomes stop for her husband. But for coming to mikdash and ledushav, she cannot touch 33 days. 33 days, in other words, we separate the tumah of the husband and tumah of mikdash and ledushav. For tumah of husband is 37 days. For the mikdash is 33 days, long 33 days. She would not be allowed to eat kodesh or to touch kedusha or come to Betamidash, to sin of Betamidash till 33 days. Now, why is it such a thing of tumah of 33 days? Because the womb that had the baby gives life. The womb has some type of moisture inside. Now, the womb has to get rid of all of this moisture inside from that life that she gave. That moisture creates contamination. We have to get rid of it. Now, then there is a Brit Milah. We do Brit Milah on the 8th day. Now, what do I do with the Brit? Brit is a covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, the sign of covenant. Now, what should be a sign of covenant? The sign we give to a soldier, usually we put it on his shoulder or a forehead. But the sign of the covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the Brit of a person. Now, why? Because that's a highlight. The highlight of all of the Torah and mitzvot is that the person should be able to control himself. The person cannot control himself. There is no covenant. There is no relationship with Hakadosh Baruch Hu. All of our relationship with Hashem. That's why the sign of the birth is there. Now, why is it 8th day? The Zohar says, because we want one Shabbat to go through. The child needs one Shabbat to get the zechut and merit of having the Brit Milah. That is the Kiddush of Shabbat. What it does, prepares the child with the Kiddush, that the Brit should be done with the Kiddush. There one Shabbat should be there. Now, why do we do it while she's young? It's interesting. The Persian said a few reasons. Why do we do it while the baby is young baby? Because we do it because if he is older person, he would be afraid, he would be scared. Right now, he's not scared. We just do operation on him. Right? Very simple reason. The second reason is if he gets older, the love of the parent to the child would grow very strongly. And a lot of times would be a big nisayum, big test for the parents to do Brit Milah, because they don't want to cause pain for the child that they love so much that they were together. Therefore, that also another reason that we don't, they might stop and not do it. Now, what is the Brit itself physically? The Chinuch says, the Farshim say, the Brit weakens the Tawa, weakens the loss of a person, and that helps the person to change its kedusha. Physically, what happened here? Now, medically, they say by 8th day, because 8th day, blood congeals much faster than every other day. In other words, till 8th day, in other words, if you do the injury on a child, on the 7th day, the blood would come out much more. Therefore, the safest day is the 8th day. From that time, the blood becomes very normal to congeal when there is an injury. If she gives birth to a girl, she would be tummy twice, two weeks, like the separation, and 66 days she would remain on the blood of Torah. And when she finishes the weight, the ben bat for a ben bat, Tavi was bring keves sheep 1 year for Ola, and Ben Yonah, and the young dog, or a turtle dog, lechatat. Therefore, brings 1 keves for Ola and chatat. Now, why do you have to bring to chatat? What's chatat? Chatat is for sin offering. Why is it that? Ramban explains because Predata, Mayan, Nirpash, Kofer. In other words, one of the kilalot of Chava was that with Tsar you give birth, and that Tsar is a kapara for the chet of Chava. Therefore, since Chava sins, and she thought wrongly about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now this is a kapara, she brings Chata for that kapara, and some Mefarshim say, the Gemara says because of maybe she had so much pain and she swore that I'm not going to have marital relationship with my husband because of that Shavua she has to bring Chatat. There was that Chatat, and the Olah should bring to appreciate and to be grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now it's very interesting that all over in Torah says Torim or Ben Yonah. First says Torim and then Ben Yonah. Here Torah says Ben Yonah or Tor. Why Ben Yonah comes here first? In all Torah Kula, if you look for any time that the Korban is around the bird, Torah says Torim or Ben Yonah. But here is only single one that says Yonah first. Now Balatorim says, because usually we bring a pair. Here we don't bring a pair because for the Olah we are bringing keves. And Ben Yonah we are bringing a single one for Chatat. Now Torah is saying that if you have a choice of Torim or Ben Yonah, you should bring, if you have a choice of Torim or Ben Yonah, you have to bring Ben Yonah. Why? If you bring single one. Why? Because turtle dog, when he loses or she loses the mate, she would be mourning for the rest of her life. She would not get another mate. Therefore, Torah says, Sar Barchaim, if you have a choice to bring Yonah or Tor, bring Ben Yonah. That sensitivity in a person, that in itself is korban for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem cares when we care for even creatures, not to cause any pain that we don't have to pay. Even though that we are bringing as a korban, and that's the greatest accomplishment on the object, but if you could prevent Tsar from causing another lot of times you want to do something, you feel it's an open field. I'm doing a mitzvah. No, you are mitzvah somebody. Diminish the Tsar. No. let him suffer. I want to do my own mitzvah. Torah says no. Greatest korban HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when you are sensitive. And even while you are doing a mitzvah, be careful. Diminish causing pain for other people. and they bring it close to Hashem, and provide atonement for her, and she becomes tahor from her source of blood. This is procedure of the one who gives birth, male or nekeva. Now, what about if she cannot afford it? They say for a sheep is very expensive, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. She cannot do it. She gets first is Torim here, because it's a pair. Once the pair says Torim, turtle dove or dove, echalola, one or one hadad, we keep our and put it by the men, the tahira, she becomes dove. They were just to bring a korban, to appreciate, and for the sin, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now we're going to go to the next parasha. We are Perek L'Timel, Pasuk Aleph. Perek L'Timel, Pasuk Aleph. Now we're going to talk about Metzorah, by the Rashi Moshe B'Aharonemo. Adam Ki Be'or B'Saro. Person, when it is in the skin of his flesh, Se'ed, or Sapachat. Se'ed is the type of them. All of this, there are 4 types of Negoim, of the Negoim. Sapachat means something butter to. Therefore, we have Se'ed and something butter to Se'ed, and Baheret and something coupled by it. Baheret is the widest one. Baheret is the widest one. Therefore, we have really 4. We have all 4. That Sapachat is a secondary to Se'ed and Baheret. That's why Sapachat was said between them. Like the Mishnah says, we have 4 avot of Negoim. 4 Negoim. Now, all of them looks white. The whitest one is Baheret Kesheret. It's like snow. Then Sapachat of Baheret is Sid Hechal, is the plaster of the Hechal. And Se'ed is like a semer, like a whiteness of the wool. And Tafel to Se'ed, Sapachat of Se'ed is Kerum Be'ah, membranes of the Be'ah, Betzah, egg. There are 4 types of color of white. Now the widest one is like snow, and the lowest one is Kerum Be'ah. Now it's dimmer than Kerum Be'ah, membranes of the egg is Tahor. And the widest one is Baheret Keshelek, that is the widest of the widest. In other words, the body color turns to white, becomes Tameh, to the affliction of Sarat, should be to Kohen, you have to bring to the Kohen is Gezrat HaKatuv, that it doesn't become Tameh till Kohen says that it's Tameh. And it doesn't become Tahor. Even if this thing goes away, it doesn't become Tahor till Kohen announces that it's Tahor. Moshe says, why? The stain is not there. Why does it have to do with the mouth of the Kohen? Because all of the Metzorah, one of the primary Avraham Metzorah is Motzirah, Shemra, someone says Lashon Hara. Why does it say Lashon Hara? Because he feels it's just a word. I'm not doing anything. I'm not harming him. I'm not hating him. But Torah is telling us, want to teach him how mouth is important, the word of mouth. Because without the word of mouth of the Kohen, we don't become Tameh. Without the word of mouth of the Kohen, we don't become Tahor. So we need the word of mouth to make it Tameh or Tahor. Now, what's the semichut? How come all of a sudden, after Torah talking about the birth of a child, Torah talks about Lashon Hara? Why should we talk about Lashon Hara? Like after birth, we talk about Lashon Hara. Or talk about the mitzvah, talk about something that has to be done. Why all of a sudden, Torah goes from the birth to Lashon Hara? Now, the Midrash says, when a person has a child, has to bring korban. Now, Torah says, if you don't bring a korban, if somebody doesn't care, he doesn't bring a korban. It says, you don't come to a Kohen to bring korban, I force you to come to Kohen. How do I force you to come to Kohen? He gets sarat, and he has to come to Kohen to see whether it's tahor or tam. And then he has to bring korban for sarat. Now, what's the point? It's interesting. So I say that I gave you a child. You have to bring a korban. You don't bring korban, I compel you, I force you to bring the korban, to bring the Kohen, to come to Kohen. You didn't come to Kohen to bring the korban for the birth, I make you to bring. Now, what's pshat? What's the Lashon Hara? Let's try for Lashon Hara. What does Lashon Hara have to do with anything over here that you didn't bring the korban, now you bring? In other words, the Torah is saying that's the source of Lashon Hara. Where does the source of Lashon Hara come from? Why is Lashon Hara? Rambam brings the Alchot of Lashon Hara, called Midot, the Ot characteristics. Lashon Hara is not the Isur in Dibur, it's the Isur in the Mita, the characteristic that the person has. Chachamim tell us it's like He has the nature of a bug. Bug, if finds the table is clean, everything is clean, small spot, it comes on. It's a negativity. It gets the negativity. No, we are saying that the lady, we have a child. Why don't you bring korban? Why don't you appreciate? Why don't you count your blessing? In a family that they don't count their own blessings, all the time is the deprivation, children feel lacking. Children feel deprivation. Once you feel lacking and deprivation, then there is a jealousy, there is everything, and you want to attack other people. Why? Because you don't have serenity within yourself. You're not serene. You're not happy with yourself. Once you're not happy with yourself, it's a bug in nature. You come and stay on the stain of other people. You stick to that. But if a family, they bring the korban and they count their own blessing, they are happy with what they have, they teach children, we are happy, we are serene. Once we are serene, then they don't have to lashon hara, they don't have to go and talk against other people. The Torah is telling us, when you don't bring the korban, we don't count your blessing at home. All of the blessing that they have. Somebody used to tell his children, on their Shabbat, we don't have to say the Torah or anything. Everybody should say one blessing that they got during the week. You got something from what Torah would say. That opens the mind. Every child would say something. And that would be very collective things that opens the mind. And then you help out stories from people that, this person is like that. Somebody had a child, the child couldn't eat. They had 4 or 5 hours of the time of the parents to feed the child. They were unbelievable. Your children eat normally, and that's a bracha, that's a blessing. You have to spend 5, 6 hours in a very busy schedule of life. You could imagine a parent should be busy to feed the child for 5, 6 hours every day. They could eat, it's a blessing. They could do the things on their own, it's a blessing. Every function of the children is a blessing. Therefore, a person has to count his own blessing and create that serenity and happiness at home. Then we do lashon hara. Lashon hara is a fact of injecting deprivation at home. Because the nega, this affliction besar benega, and the hair in the nega hafach lavan turned white. And the appearance of the affliction is deeper than the old besar. No, this deeper doesn't mean sensible. We cannot sense it. It's deeper. Why? Because whenever that you have a shade and you have a light, always the light is deeper than shade. Here, because the skin becomes wider, it's brighter, it's deeper. In other words, if the star turns to lavan and stubble. Now, Mefarshim said pshat. Why lavan is tameh? Because lavan, the star loves someone means turn lavan white. White person gets all the color changed to white because he doesn't get the chiyut, he doesn't get nutrition enough because it becomes weakness, and that is a sign of becoming weaker and weaker. Therefore, that's why there is no chiyut, there is no life there, and that's why the se'ar shachor is the life. Now here lashon hara took away the life. We took away the life from the lavan is a sign of tumah. Now Zohar said, by Yom Kippur we know that the redness is a sign of sin. And we are waiting on all of Yom Kippur. All the highlight of Yom Kippur is that the red cloth to turn to white. White is a sign of purity. All over in Torah, white is a sign of purity. Now, how come here by Metzora, Torah says white is a sign of Tumah? Zohar says unbelievable answer. Zohar says somebody who says lashon hara, even his whiteness is not accepted by Allah. That whiteness, that's the highlight of Yom Kippur, and turns over Yom Kippur, all of Avirot of the Halisoil to blessing and bracha, and all of the Halisoil are waiting on Yom Kippur for that whiteness. Torah says somebody who goes and feels free to talk against other people, ruins their life, ruins the shidduchim, ruins a person. Torah says even the whiteness is a simon of tumah. It's not simon of time. Now, if the it's a white baheret, the skin of the sorrow, and it's not deeper, and the hair didn't turn ravan. Now, if there is a change in the matter, but we don't have the simonim of tumah, in other words, it's not deeper and it's not there, we quarantine him. 7 days, on 7th day, no. If it is Ahmad Be'enam, stand, then go further. Now, if the color becomes worse or expanded, spread out, then still tumah. But if not, then second time quarantine. No, all of this procedure we learn. Somebody said, Rabbi, what are you saying this in Parashiyah? But I think just the opposite. If somebody wants to understand the Hashgacha of Hashem, should learn Parashat Mitzvah. Now, what's Parashat Mitzvah saying? Why this color is like that? Why is quarantine? Because we need you to do tshuva, move, do something about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that the Makkah is very close to you. Be careful. Watch yourself. Therefore, what's quarantine? Again, second time. In other words, you are saying that you did tshuva, but your tshuva is not shlema. You have to do it. dim tlega belo pasai nadon betgar akol misbachati and when visitor bekhmes begadad and you should wash his garment should go to mikvah and stuff the positive said but if you don't do teshuvah spreads out and misbachat or akhir part of the story when you rush into akol belo akol when you pass the misbachat spread out between akol sarat and stuff that's the procedure of quarantine. Quarantine is the shot that he has to stay by himself. Now what's pshat of quarantine means? You have to think about yourself. In other words, the society puts you in a wheel and turns you over. All day you don't have time to think what's wrong, what's right. Quarantine is the best time. You see, yichud is our shvar. Negi asarat ki ba'adam, we were brought to the Kohen. Lo Kohen ve'inesi levano. No, the adwa ba'adam. Now the Gemara says Adam is only for Jews. Kohen don't have sarat. Oh, what does that mean? Going are full of lashon hara or corruption. They don't have sarat, and Jews never they have sarat. Chabasaim says the mashal to two people that they got in the pile of snow and they brought them to hospital. One doctor examined both of them, and one of them he left. The other one he slapped him on the face. This way, that way. They say, "What are you doing? You are destroying him. Why don't you do anything to the other one? You love the other one, but you don't like this one." No, the other one is dying anyway. We can't help him. This one, I'm reviving him. The Kahal Israel are the one that they get Torah. Avraham HaKadosh says, the Torah says Torah is only on the skin. Why is it on the skin? Do you know why is it skin? Because they are Kahal Israel. Internally, they are Kadosh, they are Tahor. The Torah cannot get internally to Kahal Israel. They are Kadosh, they are children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Externally, because of the goyim, because of the environment, they do something wrong. Therefore, only gets to the skin. It's the said white word where he half basar one. And there is a healthy flesh that's live, basar in the same. Very interesting. You see healthy, fresh meat there. No, one would think, me and you would think that healthy flesh should be a sign of tahara. It's healthy, it's tahara. But the Torah says this is Sarat Musheneti Ba'or B'Saro. It's a long-standing Sarat Ba'or B'Saro B'Timu HaKohen. Don't do quarantine. Tamehu. Now, before she say, what's going on over here? If there's a healthy meat there, why is he Tameh? You know why? Because the characteristic trait that he had is somebody is hypocritical. What does he do? He comes to people and says, I'm your friend. I have a good thing for you. Come. But all he's thinking about himself. He is Hanifa. He's hypocritical. He comes to people and tells them, I'm your friend. But in reality, he damages them. Now, what happens? That was what created in Sarat, the healthy meat, that he sees the healthy meat. He says, oh, I'm healthy. I'm okay. I'm not tummy. But in reality, it's tummy. Why is the reality tummy? Because of being hypocritical. Therefore, this comes for those who are Hanafim, the hypocritical, and they flatter other people, flattering. For aware of flattering, that type of salat comes. Therefore, he sees, why is the healthy meal? Why Hakadosh Baruch Hu is doing that to me? I thought the healthy meal. I had the hope. I thought it's good. Everything is going well. But Hashem says, measure by measure. You flatter other people. You make other people feel good. And in reality, you are damaging them. Here, that's what happens to you. You are Perech Hikimah, Pasuk Betin, Paru Akib Achsarat. If the Sarat will be an eruption, Sarat Ba'or skin, Vichiset Sarat, and cover Sarat Kol Haniga, all of the skin of the nigger, and from head till ragna, the whole Malayanov, with all of the appearance of the Kohen, if everything becomes Sabach Lavan Tahuru. Now, Levychaim says from here we prove that Sarah is not contagious disease. Contagious disease, if it gets all over in the body, it's much worse. Contagious, other people get it, it's catchy. You can't in him, you have to send him away. But it says Tahuru, it could be among everybody. So from here you see that Sarah is not a regular sickness. It's a spiritual sickness that Hakadosh Baruch Hu sends for a person. Now, Levychaim says, why is it Tahor? Because all of this Sarad is humiliation. Humiliation is kapar. Now, when is it covered? It's covered. Nobody notices. Only himself. He goes quarantine and he works himself. But sometimes Hakadosh Baruch Hu makes a person to be embarrassed in front of everybody. One, because he did something secret and he's showing to people that he's a very righteous person. What does Hakadosh Baruch Hu do? Hakadosh says, you tell people you're righteous, I do something that everyone should see that you're the right person. See, all of the parasha of Mitzvah is hashgacha of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. People think, why should we learn this parasha? This parasha is not rejected. Torah is telling you, if a person shows himself tzaddik to other people, but internally he is not, what does Hashem do? Measure by measure. Hashem does something that everyone should see openly, that is. And the other way also, somebody is a tzaddik in a secret, and here Hashem makes it at the end of the day, people would find out. A lot of times people get burned through things. Because of Chilul Hashem, they don't say anything. And it's stories after stories. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu, at the end of the day, proves to people that he's right. He did something right. A lot of stories, Tzedek knows Torah Kula. And he wrote the Sefer from Aleph to Tav. He wrote everything. Why was he Zoche? Because the other Rabbanim in town, they built a plot for him, that he was with the lady, cleaning lady, and they paid her to say that, and he didn't say anything. The lady came back to him and said that I could go and announce everybody that was a plot. He said, no, it's a great Chilul Hashem, don't do that. From Shomayim, they said that you are Mekadesh Shem Shomayim, the mind that thinks in Torah and he wants to be Mekadesh Shomayim, this mind should be Zoche to Torah Kula. And he wrote the Sefer Sedechem, that, all of the Torah, everybody refers to the Sefer. And everything that we want in the subject, we go to Sedechem. That is what is. Therefore, here, he did something, he wanted to show that this. No, that in itself, the humiliation is kapara of our. We don't need anything more. The fact that he is embarrassed from everybody else is a kapara. No, why is it Nogia to us also to know when we see him, what should we do? We should have empathy with him. Somehow we have to find another, you deserve it. I knew. No, Chas v'Shalom. They have to have pain. In other words, somebody would tell me like this. If he gets like that, Torah says, he deserves it. Why should I feel bad? No. Don't put your foot in the shoes of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem does his cheshbon, and you have your own cheshbon. Hashem does whatever that he wants to do. That is, but your cheshbon is you have to have empathy with him. You have to feel bad for him, and you have to make it not to be embarrassing. If he could do anything, they shouldn't be embarrassed so much. You should do it. And in the day that you see basar chai, if it is the flesh chai, in that becomes something. No, but if that's without basar chai, healthy flesh. But no, that says beyond. Now Rashi says beyond. What says Torah says beyond? In the day. What do you mean in the day? Torah is telling you, Kohen, sometimes there is a day that you are metame, sometimes you are not metame. What? Let's say a chatan. Chatan, on the day of the chuppah, he wants to go to chuppah, he has Torah. They bring it to Kohen. And Kohen says, it's tummy. What should I do? Torah says, B'yom. There is a day that you announce that he's tummy, the day that you don't announce his tummy. You don't say, not only himself, his clothing. Let's say that the begadim that she has to wear kalla khatan becomes a sarat. What should we do? They are ready to go to Kuba. No, Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, on that day you don't become him, his clothing and his house. All the questions like this. Again, all of the parasha of sarat, Hashgacha Hakadosh Baruch Hu. You understand? It's a puzzle. What do you want, Hashem? Do you want him to have sarat and becomes tameh? Therefore, let the Kohen announce that he's tameh. He's really tameh. If you don't want him to become tameh, why do you give him sarat? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. What do you want, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, from our life? If you want to give, you telling me in Torah, we should not bother this chatan, don't bother him. If you bother him and give it to him, then announce it. Why is it limbo? Why is it like that? What is it? Beyond the horror. No, Torah is telling us like this. Again, Hashgacha Hakadosh. This chatan wants to go to food, but it is kapara. This kapara. Now Hakadosh Baruch Hu says with Avraham, said, I don't want to stop you from going to football. Really, you don't deserve to go to football. But I couldn't give you the sarat that you could go to football. No sarat, if it comes sarat, you have to announce it. You don't announce it. That in itself is enough for you to be kapara. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is working so hard to get this chatan to the chuppah. That's the way that Hashgacha works. It's not a puzzle. It's not a puzzle. Hashem knows he needs the humiliation to be ready to go to chuppah. Some people, some chatan doesn't make it to chuppah. Some make it easily. Some, there's obstacle on the way. You have to remove the obstacle. Now, what does Hashem do? Hashem says, okay, you get the sarat. But meanwhile, that in itself, he has to do something with him. You understand? He has to do the shuvah. You understand? He moves it. No, as far as the nullification of the wedding and everything goes, Hashem says, don't do that. That in itself is a zechut and merit for him. A lot of times we have a big thing, and a lot of times the person, something wrong happens on a Yom Tov, on a Shabbat, on Pesach. You have to understand. The Torah perspective, Goyish perspective is, see on Pesach night, I have to do like this, I have to go through this, I have to do this. But Torah perspective is, you have to understand, Hashem did such a great chesed that's happening on Pesach. The zechut of Pesach helped that the decree should be much less. If it wouldn't have happened on Pesach, we'd have zechut and merit on Pesach. Then what would have happened? You don't even know what would have happened. The Gezerah would be much deeper. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Avraham. Hashem makes it to happen on Leil Pesach, or sometimes that's the deal. The person says, whoa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't leave me. Even Pesach night, I have to suffer. Family would suffer, this has suffer. No, Chas v'Shalom. That's a Goyish way of thinking. The Jewish way of thinking, traditional way of thinking is Hashem hands it out at that time. Why? Because we need mercy at that time. If it happens other night, we don't have mercy, we don't have zechut and merit. Now the zechut and merit of Pesach, Yom Tov, whatever that is, helps you out to get through much easier. Therefore, that is from here we learn Hashgacha Baruch, and Kohen would see the flesh, the healthy flesh, with Timu and Basar Chai, Tamehu, Sarah. We said that the healthy meat any place is a symbol of Tumah. Kiyashu Basar Chai, Bene Pahravan, Boal Kohen, Roa Kohen says, Bene Pahanaga Lavan Taho, Lavan Betara Kohen, and Nigat Taho, who is Taho. When the Basar Chai goes back to Lavan, becomes Taho. Who Basar Chai becomes Taho. Now, what about, now we talked about the Sarat without anything before. Now, Basar Chai Bobeoro, Shechin. It has the inflammation in the meat when you pop, and that fixed flesh at the inflammation. And the place of the shechin inflammation, sed levana, there is a sed levana, white, ubahel levana, ubahel, that's white, adam dome. It has a strict with red. There is a lines of redness inside, white and red. When you and see shuffling, or the appearance is lower than the skin because always brightness looks deeper. And the hair didn't turn white, and Kohen should contaminate Negas Sorati, Bashikin Palcha. And this Negas, and it erupted in the inflammation. And it's not deeper than the Levychaim, and still, with Kira Kohen, quarantine 7 days. Quarantine means you are in a situation that do it shuvah. Do it. این positive say, if it spread out, if you didn't do teshuvah completely, negative. No, quarantine is the best time that you deal with yourself. There is nothing there to interrupt you. You get to yourself and you find out what you did wrong. If is scoring of the information, should make it tahor. Now, what about if there is a skin, in the flesh of the skin, there is burn from fire, and there is a flesh, there is a healed flesh of the burn, it becomes white at the with this streak of red. There's a line of redness in or levana or white, and Kohen sees the and change to the hair turn to white, in the baheret, and the appearance is deeper than the skin. In the burning part of the team to if I can see and steam, and continue. And stand to himself, and steam, say that makes it out, is the scoring of the burn. Now it's very interesting. Torah talked about two things, shechim and mikveh. Now, after that, there is a Torah. Now, what's pshat? Why Torah is saying that? What's the point? Torah is saying that it's unbelievable hashkafa. Why did you get shechim? Shechim is the regular disease. Why did you get it? Because you had to do teshuvah. Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted teshuvah. In other words, the Navi says when people had sickness, they wouldn't go to doctor, they would go to Navi. What's wrong with me? Therefore, now Hakadosh Baruch Hu is giving a message that we didn't do teshuvah shalema. Even that I healed it, but it's not shalema. It was warning him that you have to do something about it. And if he does something about it, everything would go, not the level that it goes. If he doesn't do anything about it, then it goes back to the things. Avraham doesn't want to afflict the person for nothing. He warns. In other words, life is messages. If we get the right message, right time, we could remove from ourselves a lot of yisurim, a lot of suffering. Life is a matter of listening to the messages. All of the Torah is like that here recently. In other words, there was a shechin, or inflammation, burn for it. You do teshuvah. We didn't do teshuvah, but it got healed because of some zechutim and merit. But still, the file is open. Now, I was saying something else. Do teshuvah, quarantine. If it does, then it goes away. No, we show no. No, what about? No, so far we're talking about skin. What about if nega berosh or bezavan? In other nega affliction is in the head or zavan or beard. In other words, the head has to do something with the head, the way that the hair or zakam that he had. Therefore, the stain comes there. I couldn't see it being maru amo is deeper, no, but besar sahab. And over here, the hair is sahab, golden, dark and weak. With him to Akoin, I mean, net is netter sarad harosh asaban. Therefore, over here it turns to golden and weak. In other words, again, golden over here means that the hair that's golden means that it's becoming weak and losing its hue. That's sign of tumor. And the Kohen says, in Mara moves not deeper, and so Shachar in Bo, we skill are going to quarantine, 7 days, and they get no institute at 7 days. If it doesn't spread out, and there is no golden hair, in Amor and not deeper, it has to shave himself the netter, the place. He has to shave himself, but the netter, that place should not be galaya, should not shave it. Basically, I couldn't quarantine at the Shvat Domin, but I couldn't a netter by Mashiach 7 days. If it didn't go spread out netter, go, Maru and Mogatzot, but here to Akoi, and he would go to his garment to the mikvah and start. The impossible is spread out, and it's or Achari Toro, but I couldn't be impossible and it goes further. Do you back I couldn't should not wait, examine the sorrow, Tamehu. We be no Amad and sin and take the sorrow Shachor, Samahu, and if black hair sprouted up, Boni Palette, Tauru, Tarakoin. In other words, interesting, the reflection of Teshuvah inside expresses outside. The star becomes Shachor because he did Teshuvah Shelema. Therefore becomes Tahur. No, we should shut here, no, not the case. We said that if it is the whiteness, is a suman of Tuma. Now Torah says, man or lady, when they are served Besaram, Beharot Lebanot, they are spot Lebanot. Now, once they see it's Beharot Lebanot, what does it sound? It sounds that it should be Tames Sarat, because Lebanot or whiteness is a sign of Tuma. And the Kohen sees, or Besaram Beharot Kihod Lebanot. He sees that it's white, but Kihod is dim. It's dimmer than the members of the egg. Bohahu, Parach, Ba'or Tahu. It's Bohahu and it's Tahu. No. Now, why is it like that? Now, the person say, what is it? Again, what's Hashgacha? If Hashgacha wants him to get Sarat, give him Sarat. If you don't want him to get Sarat, why do you give him the stain and comes to Kohen, and Kohen says all of a sudden that it's not Sarat? Now, before she said this type of things comes for somebody that he does something that's mutar, but people think that's also. Very interesting case. In other words, there is a halacha shulchan like this. If something even is mutar, but people in the neighborhood or people think it's also, you should not do it. Because when you do something that people would feel that is also, it looks like that you did something wrong, even though in reality you didn't do something wrong. Therefore, he is doing something like that. They will measure by measure what that was do. That Hashem sends him something that looks like tumor, but in reality is tahor. Because he does something that in the eyes of people becomes asur. Let's say, for example, I said at the Yabba of Tzedakah, when he collects money, you're not allowed to put the money in his own pocket or his own wallet. He has to have certain things. Or somebody works for the Beit HaMikdash and works with perfumes, you should not bring perfumes at home. Because people would, in other words, he does something that in reality is good, but in the eyes of people, still is wrong, should not do it. Now here, HaKadosh measure by measure, brings something to him that looks like, according to everybody, that's tummy, but strong. Now, what about, now we're going to go, what about baldness? Baldness has to do with the sarat or not? It's a change in the body. What is it? The man, when his hair should fall out, is the baldness of the back of the head and so. Now we have baldness at the back and the front. The back is more is tahor. If it is from the side of front toward his face, he falls off his hair. Is the bald from the front, tahor is tahor. Therefore, whether it's back or front, is the baldness and tahor. Now, what about if that baldness of the front or back becomes the stain of lavan adamdum, white and streaked of red? Sorat brachati is the sorachat of wrapping the karachto begabachto. Is in front or in the back and front. Kohen should see it. Says that lavan adamdum. Said bekarachto begabachto. Kemar sorat lo basar God. Ish taru ahudit. Another the halacha would be like the flesh. In other words, now it's very interesting that why some people should come on the body, some people should come to hair. It has to do with the avera that they did. Some of the avera it relates to the hair or the zakan or the beard, and sometimes it relates to the part of the body. Now, ishtaruahu tamehu. Therefore, the halacha would be like the flesh. We did with that. Now, ishtaruahu is tame. Ishtarua tamehu. Tame no akoel berosho nego. Kohen should announce him as tame. Ba'asaru asher bo anegah. Now, what should Sarua do? Sarua asher bo anegah. First of all, he has to go out of the machane. Because his garment has to be rent, has to be torn. And his hair has to be parua, let it grow, he cannot get haircut. And his upper lips shall be covered with the cloth, should cover it with tame igra. And whoever comes to those to him, he has to say, I'm tame. Kol yemei asher gabo itma tamehu, badad deshev, he has to sit michutz lamachane moshavu. From the outside of the machane moshavu, he has to sit. In other words, Torah says that you say lashon hara, you separated between people. What do we do? First of all, you don't, in other words, any blessing that the person has and doesn't use that blessing properly, Hashem takes away from it. Any bracha that the person has, anything the person has to use properly. Once you don't use properly, you're with social, with people, and you make machloket between them. What does Hashem do? You took it away from people. we don't deserve to live in the community. You go and you say that you made people separation, you sit in separation, and then appreciate the fact that people are together. Don't create machloket. If there's a machloket, try to eradicate the machloket, not to create more machloket. And then the other thing is that he used his mouth and he talked. In other words, the things that makes the lashon hara. One of the things is that he has this arrogance. Because of arrogance, person is arrogant with his begodim. The begodim of a person expresses a person. A person wears the nicest suit in the wedding, he feels that they like a king. Everybody has to respect him. They say, no, it's begodim must go from. Therefore, the gava that he made in lashon hara, that's to wear torn begodim, to work out with the gava that makes him to say lashon hara. And his hair has to be parua. One of the other things that makes the person say lashon hara is indulgement. When a person, in other words, very interesting, when a person is indulging himself in his body and makes himself so beautiful, so nice, then he looks down at other people. Then he starts talking against them. The person, is normal, acts normal, everything is fine. But once you make yourself so exceptional, then there's a Torah says no. Don't get indulged with the gashmiut and physicality of your body. Have to get haircut every time. The person gets haircut every time. Now somebody gets haircut very late. Says he puts him down. He talks against him. Any type of indulgement in life makes a person to be sensitive, to make him wrong, negative sensitivity to other people. As the form and then basically it's the form. His upper lip has to cover it. Be careful. In other words, Ahoshvar put two fences for the mouth to talk and to use it, not to use it when it's not proper. When you want to open it, to think about it. Once somebody came to Levychaim and said that I said lashon hara, what should I do? He said, find a windy day and you have a pillow and go and open your pillow and let the wind takes away everything. He says that I didn't know Levychaim also is a Rebbe, says such a remedies. And then he did it and came to Levychaim proudly that I did it. Now he says, I got kapara. I said, no, go and gather them. I said, cannot be gathered. Once the word comes out, yes, it's very hard to bring it back. Now, it's very interesting also, now we finished the Mitzvah of Adam. Mitzvah in Ongolos, when you teach Levychaim, you see that in Miskarta. In other words, Mitzvah in Aramaic is Miskeret. It's so hard to Miskeret. What's Miskarta mean? Miskarta means close. Now, Zohar HaKadosh says why Mitzvah is close? Because somebody who says lashon hara, the gates of Rahamim would be closed on the. And Gaon Mimina says, now the other way, somebody is about to say lashon hara, and he holds up himself and doesn't say, all of the Gizei Rahamim would be open to him. Midah Tova is much better than Midah Negef. Now, we're going to go to Beged. Now, we have Sarad and Beged also. We're shouldn't bring a raya from here. That's not the normal disease. Normal disease that it goes to Adam, doesn't go to Beged or house. Beged, when you get Sarad, the Beged Semer. First of all, Beged has to be wool or linen, or besheti, or warp, or woof, tar or put, la pishtim, la semer, or skin, leather, all of the fashion of the or. Now, what's the color? Deep green or deep red. All of the articles of the leather, and it says on 7:30, possibly spread out by Beged B'Shtu Sarad Mam'eret is the Sarad of malignant. In other words, over it's painful. And they get Tamehu, the Sarad Beged, you burn the Beged, the warp or the woof, but similar be wool or b'shtim linen, or kelly or article of the leather. Actually, Buaniga, Kisarad Mam'eret is the Sarad malignant. He we have to burn it with fire. And if the Kohen sees when you pass on a gap, Beged B'Shti or Ba'eret, we will kelly or with Tiva Kohen is going to they should wash it, but continue for 7 days. Said the Bra Kohen said, "But wash the gap, but back to the gap." No, he didn't change. And again, look to Masar. Then Tamehu Ba'ish Sufenu. Pechetet he bekarachto begapachto. In a penetrating application in his worn garment or new garment. Doesn't matter. Sometimes it's worn garment or new garment. Anyway, would be interesting that In other words, first, Torah talks about Adam, then begotten, then houses. Houses in the next parasha. But Rambam tells us what's the order of Sarah. First comes to the house, then comes to the vessels, then comes to the begotten, then comes to the person. Now, why is it like that? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is warning a person. First, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hodu LaHashem ki tov ki Abraham hasto. One of the Hodu LaHashem hasto is because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't put affliction on a person himself, puts on his money, wealth. Therefore, the wealth would be first, and then person himself. Now, if that's the case, why Torah says different order? Torah should have said house first, then begotten and vessels, and then Adam. Why does it Torah says Adam first? Torah wants to say, the Torah says the tachlit. The tachlit of the garment and the begotten is not the garment and the begotten. They didn't do any avera that they should get Torah. The tachlit is Adam. Therefore, Torah says Adam first, but Coach Paul is giving you a discount that goes on the other one. But really, in reality, you should have that. Therefore, it gets closer and closer to a person. Maybe the house is much more expensive, burning the house. They beg it for Kelly, but Hashem builds the house. It's further away. Now, psychologically, Torah is telling you it's coming closer and closer to you. Watch yourself. When Bashir, and they should turn the beged or and this is beged Bishti Baere, who be called Kelior, Porachadi Bae, and he dropped it by fire, it has Shibunagia, by beged Ashti, and the Levychaim Daere, called Kelior, I should have washed, we saw me and then he goes there, again should be go to me where to so Torah then Gasrat, it's Torah Negasrat, the beged. The garment, wool or linen, or shiti or the tahiro. Therefore, here is what it says. The house is not in this parasha; it's next parasha, and they have a parasha that's called Metzorah. Metzorah is Metzorah. Now, always we don't have a bad name on the parasha. Why the parasha talks about Metzorah? Because the parasha says Metzorah is not bad. In other words, the fact that they have Metzorah and they don't have Metzorah is a privilege of the Hal Yisrael. That's all a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is supervising us and is warning us that if we do something wrong, it's especially Lashon Hara. Why the Rashi say by Lashon Hara more than anything else? Somebody does an Avodah Zarah, there is no message from Hashem specifically like the Torah says over here by Metzorah, because Lashon Hara is very easy to say. Therefore, the punishment is prevention. Since it's easy, the person gets a phone, cell phone, somebody who do many averot. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, wants to prevent us from such a averot. He said Hashem have a good Shabbat and we should be careful in Lashon